Man, oh man, I have been waiting for this interaction between the Daredevil and Punisher. And listen, this interaction did not disappoint. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Lawrence Report. We've got to get right down to it, y'all. We have got to discuss that interaction, that entire dialogue between Daredevil and Punisher. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Let's talk about Daredevil Born Again, episode 4. Listen, listen, listen. This interaction was insane. We got Matt out here slapping his friend, choking his friend. I'm like, come on, Matt. Like, you being pushed to the edge like this right here, this is different. But only Punisher can bring out that motivational edge that Daredevil needs. Let's get into it, y'all. So, on this episode here, we're strictly going to literally just talk about that interaction between Daredevil and Punisher. But Matt, he ends up going to where Frank Castle is located. He basically needs to confront him about these shell casings that has a Punisher logo, just to make sure that the Punisher had nothing to do with the killing of the White Tiger, right? He just wanted to be clear. He know his guy didn't do it, but he just wanted to just double check, right? So we know that at the same time, while they're talking, it seems like Frank was kind of like asking the Punisher for advice and for help, right? But then it's like Frank pushes those buttons, man. He pushed those buttons, and we got Matt out here slapping his good friend, his good buddy, choking him, only because one of the reasons why he you know pushed him is because the whole Foggy situation. And the puncher even admits that these guys, that they're the guys that are wearing his logo, these are nothing more than just fanboys, right? But getting back to that Foggy situation, when he mentioned Foggy, he mentioned how Foggy death is basically impacting him, right? Well, I really should mention how Matt basically said the judicial system took care of Bullseye. Bullseye ended up getting life behind bars, right? But it was the words when Frank said, "Well, what about Foggy? What about Foggy? Did Foggy get his life? Like, did he get his situation taken care of?" And that's one of the many reasons how Frank was starting to break down. Not to mention, even when Frank was telling Daredevil to say Hector Ayala's name, he couldn't even really say that because all that guilt was basically eating him up. And I felt bad for Matt because the White Tiger died, he got free. Then you had your best friend, he died allegedly as well. So my heart was literally breaking for Matt in this entire ordeal. But again, when he said, "Did Foggy get life?" I was like, "Wow, that's a huge blow right there, man. That's a huge blow." But even Matt came back and said, people like Foggy, you know, they have a certain decency that me and you, we really, really could never lead. We really never could live up to that type of hype right there. I was like, man, that's deep. And Frank was mentioning even the death with his own son. It's like, listen, it eats me up daily, and I know this situation right here with Hector has got to be eating you up as well. So the interaction between those two, it was a very emotional type scene. A lot of harsh words were said to each other, a lot to think about, a lot to decompress. Matt is basically, you know, feeling some type of way. And the puncher lets him know that, listen, I'm not going to be out here helping you trying to solve these cases. I don't want to put back on that uniform because I feel like that uniform has caused me more harm than the betterment of myself, basically. And Daredevil's like, well, Matt is like, well, I guess I'm going to have to suit up again on my own. Of course, we know how this is going to go down later on in the episode. But listen, Frank said, you basically came here for my permission, right? Because you know what you have to do. You know you're supposed to be the protector of the city. And I guess you just needed me to help push you along the way. And if that's the case, I'll do that. But man, this emotional scene, this scene right here, it was a lot to take in. I see both sides, how both sides are trying to play it fair. I really see Matt's point of view, and I also see Frank's point of view as well when it comes to this whole interaction. I really believe that this scene right here was absolutely needed. This story was needed. This monologue right here was needed because it seems like Frank hasn't really come to the terms, hasn't really come to the light when it comes to the death of Foggy. And it's okay as a man to shed a few tears uh, in a situation like this right here when you just lost your best friend. So Matt needed that emotional debriefing basically to let things just fall out. Matt and Fisk, they basically foreshadow what's going to come for these two characters. So we see Matt right here on top of the rooftop, like a secret room, secret location he has in his apartment building. We see the Daredevil mask, and he's basically training with that baton, right? We even saw Fisk. Fisk ends up basically he's holding hostage a man by the name of Adam. This was basically the man who his wife was sleeping with whenever Fisk was out of town, right? And both of these guys right here, Matt and Fisk, are basically mirroring what's about to happen to the both of them. Matt is getting ready to go back to wearing the suit. Fisk is about to return back to his evil ways. Well, basically, his evil ways kind of like really never really left him. And Fisk has been holding this man hostage and basically torturing him. Therefore, both these guys, in hindsight, are basically going to be considered going to be born again. And of course, at also the end, we end up seeing Muse. Now, Muse is basically taken. We saw those paintings on the wall, whatever. But Muse has this man. He's basically draining him of his blood. So I'm assuming that the next episode will be basically focused on Muse. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking that next episode will be basically focused on Muse, and that wraps up episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again. Great, great episode. Man, this series is something else. This series is something else, y'all. It's so good. And as always, thank you for tuning in to the Lawrence Report.